Hello again, third grade. Sorry I can't show you my face, not that you need to see it, but this is a review of metric measurement, and I went over it on another video where I introduced you to the concept of metric measurement using volume. And we had this math problem where we looked at the 1,000 milliliters plus 680 that were in my bottle of Simply watermelon juice, or maybe it was Simply orange juice. I ran out of orange juice and had to use a watermelon for another example, so I can't remember which I used in that video. So we learned that 1 liter holds 1,000 milliliters. And we looked at this measuring cup, and we could see that with that 500 milliliters, it was about 2 cups. It's the same size as 2 cups, just about. And if we did 2 of those, it would have almost filled up that Simply orange juice bottle. And what would have been left over? If we'd put a liter of liquid in that empty bottle, this amount would have been left over. So, in addition to a liter in that bottle, there was also 680 milliliters. And if I had done that experiment and we had poured from the measuring cup into the bottle, we would have seen that of those 7 servings, 1,680 milliliters were in of those 7 servings, and then they would have fit in the bottle and not overflowed it. So that was the beginning of our review of volume from the metric perspective. And now we're going to look at putting in our main lesson books a page relating to volume. So I did a second page, this is page 11 now, of metric measurement, volume, continued. And I made a small mistake with my continued as I was writing and thinking at the same time, and I thought of a different word and wrote an N before my T. So it's C-O-N-T-I-N-U-E-D, continued. Metric, measurement, volume, continued. So we're still working with the volume amounts. We say a liter is the metric measurement of approximately 4 cups, right? If we looked at the comparison, there's your 500 milliliters. So if we doubled that, it would be 1,000. And 1,000 milliliters is 1 liter. And it's not quite, look, it's not quite the same amount. This 2 cups line does not come all the way up to the 500 milliliter line. So you would have a little bit more than 4 cups of liquid if you had a liter. So we then write it down here so we don't forget that 1 liter, we use its initial L equals 1,000 milli, and I had to split my word and put it down here, liters, and its initials are ML. Sometimes the L is a big L, and sometimes the L is a little l. So there's that back side of that page. So ML. And 1,000 milliliters equals 1 liter. The opposite is also true. That's the nice thing about the equal sign. It's like a balance. And when you get it right, the balance is always even, and so it can work on either side of either tray that you use if you imagined an actual balance like we used in the classroom. So that was our review of metric measurement volume. Now we're going to look at something I shared with just a few third graders on a Zoom call, Rowan and Saoirse and Penelope. We are going to look at my work in progress, and this is the metric measurement page dealing with length, width, and height. So what I decided to do was I used my already sharpened purple pencil, so I didn't need to resharpen it. And each time I had a new pencil to sharpen, I used my shavings to shade. So I've used this pencil now, so it's gotten dull. So I could sharpen it again on this page and add color, oops, to my background. But my title says metric measurement, length, width, and height. And then I took a different ruler and I showed Penelope, Saoirse, and Rowan this ruler that I had used previously. This is an inch ruler. It's wooden and it says made in the USA on it. And it has a little metal piece here to help keep it's actually embedded in the wood to help keep the line straight in case the wood chips and it got bent. So it's not in perfect condition. It's a very old ruler. But I had to use a different kind of ruler to share with you about metric measurement. And this ruler, you can tell, is clear. So it helps to have actually a light colored paper underneath it so you can see what it's measuring. Now, if you don't have one of these rulers, it's going to be difficult to copy my page exactly as it is. But you can try by putting the page, either printing it out so you have a copy of it, and then you can measure using the ruler that you do have the distances that I have on my page. So here is the inches of this ruler, and there you can see it. 1 inch, and it's already cracked. This is made of plastic, and you can tell that Office Depot had it made, or made it themselves, I'm not sure which. And on the bottom, all these inches are here, and on the bottom is something else. We can flip it over and read what is on there. There are 4 letters, MM and CM, and the numbers 0 all the way to 30. And a little bit. You can see there's a little more than just 30 on this ruler being measured here. Those measurement lines are called millimeters for the teeny tiny ones, and the ones that have numbers by them are centimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you might recognize that word centimeter. Centimeter has 2 words in it, cent and meter. Meter is kind of like the yard. They're very similar in terms of their length. So yard and meter, they come into play in this measurement review. So metric measurement, length, width, and height. That's what you use a ruler for. You use a ruler not to measure how much space something takes up total, like the volume, like liquid volume, or even like solid volume, but to measure how tall, how wide, and how long something is. So we can call that linear measurement. Usually it means it's something flat like a piece of paper. You know, it could be something like my pencil box, all different kinds of things. We talked about what we could do with our rulers, what we could measure. And Rowan and Saoirse and Penelope and I measured this piece of paper, which says on the packaging that it comes from that it's 8.5 inches by 11 inches. And sure enough, we discovered that this piece of paper is what we call computer paper or standard paper, and it is 8.5 by 11 inches long, 8.5 inches wide and 11 inches long. So when we say it's landscape, it's 11 inches, and when we say it's portrait, it's 8.5 inches. So what we're doing today is we're exploring the measurements on a metric ruler. So the next thing I did after I wrote my title and used my red pencil shavings to color in, because I was going to write in red, or actually this is more like an orange, next. Then I outlined in this same red color, it was this red-orange color, the ruler. I laid it down so that it was more or less on the page, and then I marked at the 0 and at the last mark of the mark of the ruler, because you can see it goes beyond its actual measurement here at the end. And then I did the same thing on the bottom, and I made sure my ruler was straight, and I had a small accident where it wasn't quite straight, so I redrew my line, and then I traced the outside of my ruler. So I had the same thing that we had on the first page that we reviewed measurement on. And we were talking about standard measurements. And then I showed you what 1 inch looks like. And I did the same thing I did on that previous measurement page, and I marked where the inch was on the ruler, and then I striped it. I used 2 different colors of red. You can use whatever colors you like, even a different title color if you like, but it is nice to be consistent with the same color title for each of the things that are the same. So for instance, this is all metric measurements, so all my metric measurement titles are purple. And then my background color changes based on what pencils I'm using next. So I labeled it 1 inch, and now I'm gonna look at, I left these pencil shavings so you could see what I was doing. I'm gonna look at this next piece of measurement, so you can see it up close. I took, it won't matter which one you use, 1 of these centimeters, and I marked it on my page, and then the next one right next to it. So I could mark, this is the distance of 1 centimeter between 8 and 9, and 9 and 10, and 10 and 11, 11, 12. So you choose 1, lay your ruler down on your paper, and then mark. I marked between the 5 and the 6, so I had enough room, and I didn't squish my inch, and I marked the centimeter, and then I striped that, and I wrote 1 cent E. This is not actually the letter E, it's the letter I, and then meter. So there's 2 words in this word. Cent, which you know is the same thing we give to the name of a penny, is also 1 cent. Meter. M-E-T-E-R, and its initials are C-M, centimeter, and that's what that C-M is on this ruler here. C-M stands for centimeter. And I looked at the difference between my inch and my centimeter, and it makes sense when I look at this ruler that there's only 12 inches, because how much bigger they are than that centimeter. I can almost fit 3 centimeters in 1 inch. I can fit 3 centimeters in 1 inch. It's actually a little bit more. It's 3 centimeters and a tiny bit more in 1 inch. Maybe about half more, half, 3/4 more. So 1 centimeter is about 1/3 of an inch. Now I want to see what else is on this ruler, and I discovered that it has teeny tiny little lines, and I marked them in between these 2 centimeters. So now I marked 2 more centimeters on my ruler, and I wrote them up here, 2, and I used the initials because I don't have to write out the whole word. Math likes to be brief. So 2 cm, and then I found that in between these 2 centimeters, so for instance, if it was between 11 and 13, 11, 12, and 13, I marked all these tiny little lines with my green colored pencil. Now my colored pencil is kind of fat, and so it couldn't really make individual lines very thin. You could use a very fine tipped mechanical pencil, or even this kind of a pencil, to mark your little tiny lines. Now in each one of these, you can count. There's going to be one that's extra long. The extra long one here shows you that it's halfway between the other. There, I got all my shavings down there so you can see that. Here's this extra long line here, here, and here. It's about halfway between each of these centimeters. And then this marks 1 whole centimeter. So here's 1 centimeter, here's the 2nd centimeter. And in between them are all these little lines. And if you can count them, either on my sheet or if you have a ruler to count, if you can't really see that because it's hard to see all those little tiny lines, I'm going to draw them underneath so you can see how many there are. And there they are. And I bet if you pause this video, you can count those little lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If 5's the halfway point, how many are on the other side? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 5th line here marks the new centimeter. And it counts because it makes it a whole centimeter. So now I have 10. This is 10 and another 10. And if I kept going, just marking my centimeters down and down and down my ruler, I would see that each time I came between 1 centimeter and another, there were 10 little tiny lines in between each one. These are called millimeters. So you got to see now what was on there. I'm going to erase it and I'm going to write in my green colored pencil 10 millimeters are between the centimeters. That means that 10, and we can use the abbreviation for millimeter, which is mm. So 10 millimeters, and I'll write it out. It's 2 L's. (10 millimeters) or mm is 1 centimeter, cm, or 10 mm equals 1 cm. And there it is. 1 centimeter has 10 millimeters. 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. We can also say 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So that's how we use the metric ruler to measure things in millimeters and centimeters. And when you keep going and you have more of these centimeters and you get to 100 of them, so this one only has 30. If we took 3 and a third more, we would have 100 of these little centimeters, and that would equal 1 meter. So it's almost the same relationship between the centimeter and the meter as is between the foot and the yard. Not quite, because if you just took 1 centimeter, it's a different thing. So a group of centimeters on a ruler, the same amount almost fits on as would a foot, and then 3 of these makes a yard. And so 3 of these with the centimeters on them would also make almost a meter. A meter is a little tiny bit longer than 3 of these rulers. So we can say that 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. And there is the base word, or just M. For all of these words, centimeter, millimeter, they all have the word meter in them. And that's because this is the base from which these smaller measurements are made. So 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, and 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And that's the way we use metric measurement to measure things using millimeters, centimeters, and meters. And then after this comes the kilometer. And there it is again. We say meter instead of kilometer, but it's the same spelling. 1 kilometer is very much like a mile. And a mile is what we use to measure distance when we're in the car, when we're going fast. We talk about miles per hour. So that's something that we could investigate at a different time. It's much better to do this in person when we can have projects to work on and we can actually touch things and work together and not just have a screen. But for now, we can use this to kind of explore a little bit of these very simple rulers before we go on to kilometers and compare them to miles and see the distance and the difference. Because you can use your feet, or close to your feet, you can use the ruler, and we can use the yardstick to get to a mile and see how long it actually is, and then compare it to a kilometer. All right, 3rd grade. I hope you're enjoying yourselves, and you can finish out this page if you wanted with a little extra color on the bottom, if you wanted to sharpen another colored pencil. And I can even move my remaining bits of colored pencil and have red and green together, which is going to make this kind of dark green color underneath, and fill in the last little bit of color on my main lesson page down here. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. Alrighty, enjoy your afternoon together and with family and whatever it is you're doing. And I will send out one more video for tomorrow and then again on Thursday. Okay, today is Wednesday. I will be sending out one more, and then that's it. And we have our Zoom on Friday. Okay, bye 3rd grade.